Right, guys. I've just I read a comment early this morning on on my channel, and one guy was mentioning this video by yours truly about the Baron David Ward affidavit. I did see the video actually, but I thought um, I'll give it a miss, but because it's one of these law things which I find sometimes interesting, but largely a waste of time, and they get people in trouble, um, and they make their own lives quite difficult by doing it, and they have to spend a lot of time on it as well. So I decided to have a look at it, so I'm going to comment on it and what I think. Now, um, the guy who hosted Kirsty, he was asking the questions, the devil's advocate questions, and some good points, and she couldn't answer some of them. You've got to listen to these people. Anyway, not far into the video, you discover she got all the wolves at the door, and all that kind of stuff. And it's got all these stories about what you do, and it kept saying, so if you do end up in court, and if you do this and do that, oh no, there's no law. And then quite often these people, um, they swap in and out of things, and they say, oh no, there's no law, that's only a fiction, it's a figment of people's imagination, there isn't any law. And then later on they'll say something like, oh, that's illegal. And you're thinking, well, if there's no law, how can it be illegal? And how can you say things are illegal if there's no law? She's claiming there isn't any law, unlike the other people who are on different types of law, like the sovereign man and the straw man and all that, and natural law and all the rest of it. Now, she said as well that's none of that works. She didn't say it wasn't true, but well, she did really, because she said no law exists, and so he was kind of saying, so if something does happen to you, like you do get your door kicked in and you do get evicted and you do get dragged off to jail, which people do, and he said people are getting arrested, and people are getting stuff repossessed and things like that, and so these people, in my opinion, they're always not telling you the full story about their own position, and apparently in this comment they said this Baron David Ward got his house repossessed and he ended up homeless, living in a van. So it didn't do him too much good, did it? And I don't see the point in a lot of these things, except maybe contesting fines. And there are ways of doing that, and there are ways of mitigating debt as well. Kind of by corresponding with these people. I've had 2 fines waived, if you like, or not pursued. I actually got a strange one to the UK address from, it was the road tax, or the motorway toll, I think it was, in Hungary. They do it on a registration number, and they're linked with a company in the UK, and they claimed that it didn't pay this road tax, which it did. So anyway, in the end, I just went to and from them, and I just said to them, well, you're claiming it off me in the UK, but don't live there anymore. I said, I live in Bulgaria, but I've got no address. but I live here full time, and so you can contact me, but with this email. But I haven't got an address where you can write to. I'm living in a caravan or whatever, and that was the last I heard of them. Then that was it, and they never. I don't think they ever sent anything to the UK address because they said I wasn't there anymore. And another one was overstaying in, I think it was Aldi or Lidl car park. I think they have 30 minutes in the UK, which isn't long really when you think about it, if you're a slow shopper. No, I was held up in the store actually. I was trying to change this hot plate and they kept saying, just hang on there, the manager's coming and all this. And I kept saying, I've got to get back to work, you know. It was my lunchtime. And this is in Bangor in Wales. So they held me up. And I actually, in the end, I contested it. And I just bombarded this company with letters and bombarded Lidl. Or was it Lidl or Aldi? It was one of them. And I just bombarded them with letters and they've got to answer them. They have to answer the letters and the queries. So I kept sending all these queries in and letters, and in the end they got fed up. They got fed up with me because they had to reply to them, and they obviously thought like this guy's going to drive us bonkers, you know. So that's what you can do with fines and stuff like that, you know, but things like I could never understand this. I can't get my head around this. Why people don't want to pay for electricity and gas, water, stuff like that when it's provided. It's provided into your house. It's a fantastic service, you know. You know, you can contest the bills and say it's too expensive and all that, but that's another story, you know. And I've also never heard from anybody who's going to give us an alternative to how all the council services are going to be provided, the bins and the firemen and all that. Keep asking, but nobody ever comes up with it. A few people have asked me what's my alternative. I said I'm not offering one. I'm going with the current situation. That's where I live anyway, because it's fair here. That's why I moved here, which anyone can do. In fact, you're paying probably less for it here than you're actually receiving, you know, if that makes sense. You know, if you added it up, what it costs to do the bins and street lighting and provide libraries and you know, they've got to keep them warm and lit and all the other things, you know. It's a good deal. So I'm not offering alternatives. I'm asking you, what's your alternative? You know. Anyway, going back to this Baron David. So you're not long into the video, and then these people start saying like, "Oh," she said, "Oh, I had 8 bailiffs knocking at the door, and I had a clamp put on my car, and then she let it slip at the end, because." The interviewer was asking it, you know, what happens if you do get things taken away and you do end up in court or whatever, or they do damage your property or whatever. She said, "Oh, we never get that far. We never ever let it happen, you know." And they're all scared of us. And then at the end, she said she took 3 hours to hacksaw this clamp off the car. And then she had a flat tyre, so she couldn't move the car or something. And then the police came and took the car away. She said they stole the car, but she never said how she got it back. And who's she going to call if there's no law? Who's she going to call? And, you know, she doesn't pay to get it out. She's not going to get it back. I wouldn't have thought, you know. So they only tell you part of the story, you know, like David Wood, who got evicted from his house, according to this comment anyway. So who knows? So all these things, and she actually said about the lawful remedy, which the other guys spent, I think it's 12 installments. I think I've only watched one. And it's like the same garbage over and over again, you know, about what's written in capitals and all this, and none of it's really gonna be of any use to you, you know. And it does, you don't hear many success stories. And one of them actually that he said was some woman was getting dragged off from a house because they were digging a garden up and they were going to cut the electric off from source, you know, because she's obviously installed her own meter or she won't pay the electric bill. So they're going to cut it off from the junction off the main. And she came outside and she got dragged off then, taken away. And then obviously they cut her electric off, so she's been taken away, and then when she gets out and comes back, she won't have an electric. So that's not very helpful, is it? It's not very. That's not a very good position to end up in, because then you've got to get it reconnected somehow, you know. You know, you might have your own meter, but you haven't got any electric to going through it. So you got to beware. And I keep saying, I mean, I was getting slated in a couple of vids, but I'm just trying to say to people, my opinion is, anyway, is don't get it, don't do it, don't listen to them, don't listen to these people, because they're obviously all in various forms of disputes all the time and waiting for the knock on the door and all that, and that's no way to live. Now, there are alternatives to that, to the way you live, you know. There are. You can do what I did. I've moved here, and I pay £12 a year council tax, and I've never heard any more than like £100 a year or something like that. And you know, you get spring water everywhere. You can get firewood if you want to from various places, and that kind of thing, you know. And you don't get, if you said to them here in Bulgaria, like, oh no, the electric's free, I'm not paying for it, they'd just go like that, cut the wire, and that would be it. There'd be no discussions in like that. You wouldn't be putting your own meter in there, nothing like that. Just be cut off, and that's what they do. Now you can go to them if you can't afford it, and you know, they are quite fair. And there are things you can do here if your meter's inside the house, especially, is you never let them in to read it, and you never get a bill for years. But then you will get one after a while, and then they will cut the electric off after a certain time. And same with the water. If you don't pay it, they just cut it off, just turn it off. And then you've got to pay to get it to turn back on again. But you just don't. I don't know why anybody would ever come up with the idea that like it's going to be free, you know. So there are alternatives. If you don't want to be in the system and you don't want to pay council tax, there are ways that you can live, and I've offered a few ways that you can do that. One of them's touring in a touring caravan, which I've done, and another one is living on a barge. Another one is living on a piece of land which is kind of unregulated, off-grid. And anyone can try that, you know, and see how far you go. It's quite difficult to do in the UK, actually, and land's quite expensive there as well. Probably better off doing it in a better climate, you know, and where land is cheap. Portugal, if you're classed as a finca, I think you don't pay council tax, and there are places in Portugal where they pay you to go and live there because they want to repopulate the areas. They waive all the taxes and all that. And I think there was somewhere they actually pay you some benefits to go and live there, because they don't want these places to be empty, dying, which makes it's a good way of looking at it, But you can go there, and you can certainly go to Portugal and live off grid for free, and you can go boondocking, and they have places there in Portugal where they have like these places where all the so-called snowbirds go. Like snowbird is a person who follows the weather or avoids the cold weather and the hot weather. You can do it both ways. If you don't like it too hot, you go where it's colder in the summer, like altitude. A lot of people do it in the USA, actually. They move about and keep the temperature. I mean, I'd be heading for 25 degrees, I think. That's my optimum. That's what it is at the moment here. Fantastic. So yeah, there are ways that if you don't want to be in the system, you can virtually get out of it. I did that in the UK. The last 5 years I was there. Virtually out of the system, I didn't have any property. I didn't have really. I had an address, a postal address, but I didn't live there. But I had that for certain reasons. It's quite difficult to operate in the UK if you haven't got an address, which I haven't got now. Actually, I don't need it because I've got everything now here. I've switched everything over now. I've got permanent residency, driving license, bank accounts. I do still have bank accounts in the UK, but there's nothing in them. Virtually nothing in them. I keep them going because I've got to receive at one stage. I think I need one to receive the pension if I ever get there, which is another challenge, getting to the retirement age, especially these days. It's quite difficult with all the medicines they give you and all that for some people. But we'll see about that one when we get to it. But I think that's the only thing I've got in the UK now is a couple of bank accounts, and they're not the high street banks, and I think that's it. What else have I got over there? Nothing. And I've got the full pension when I get to that age, which is quite good at the moment. It's £221. It's good here, Bulgaria. You can live like a king, a frugal king. So that's another instalment on this lawful remedy. And he did ask this Kirsty about that. This Baron Ward lady, who seems to be in all sorts of problems. On the lawful remedy, and she said, "Oh, none of that works. None of it. That's all a load of rubbish." That's what she said. And he went, "Oh, really? Oh, we've just done 12 episodes on just something that doesn't work." Well, I've been saying that for ages. It doesn't work, and it's a waste of time. People waste so much time on these things, including this one. You'd be better off doing other things like listening to frugal people and listening to people who can advise you on how to pay down debts and not get into debts in the first place. People like me, but they're not the people that these listen to, But I hope they start listening to people. But don't go and get yourself in all this trouble and get your electric cut off and all that, because it will happen, and you'll also end up in jail if you don't pay your council tax, contrary to what anybody will tell you. And the other thing is, if you've got debts, you can say to the people who you owe money to, you can't pay them, or straight away go to them and say you can't pay them at the moment. You just haven't got the means. But you can give them like a penny a week or whatever. Make a counter offer and all that. There are things that you can do, But don't just ignore them and think that you're gonna get away with it all. And even with fines, you can contest them, and you can drive them bonkers. And that's what I did on 2 occasions. And in the end, they just went away, just gave up. But I didn't say I wasn't going to pay him, or anything like that. Just keep asking him questions, stupid questions. Okay, guys. So I hope that's just my opinion, and I hope I don't like the thought of people listening to these guys, because they're all in stum. If you look between the lines, and I think this guy's realised now that he's not going to win when these bailiffs are coming out and all. And I think he's realised he's not going to take part in all this garbage anymore, reading between the lines. And I think he's paid on both occasions. He hasn't said he paid the second one, but he said he paid the first one. But I don't know why he continued. Well, I suppose he's getting good views, why he has these people on, because you are kind of pushing their narrative if you have them. I wouldn't have anybody on here telling you not to pay debts and things like that. Might have someone on telling you not to get in debt, but I could do that for you. But having people on who are peddling this stuff, I mean, there's the question: Are you aiding and abetting them? Although you might be asking the right questions to them, but you've still got them on, and you still think they've got like something to add and some legitimacy. So why don't you say to them, why don't you get your own channel and do it that way? All these sovereign people, the sovereign channels, and see how far you get. But that's my opinion on all these things. You're going to waste a lot of time on these things. And actually did say that to this Kirsty. Said, well, it's going to take a lot of time, and it's even going to be costing you money to do all these things. She said, oh yeah, but it's worth it. Well, you think it's worth it, carry on, knock yourself out. Okay, cheers.